Ba-dum-bum, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-dum-bum, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-dum-bum, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-dum-bum, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, 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 bum, doo-doo, 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 ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, 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 ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, 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 ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-dum-bum, doo-doo,
All right, everyone, we are here at the Ocala Veg Fest and we have our tent up and ready to do some evangelism. Now, this is a different way. What we're going to be doing is actually handing out some food and books, and we'll have Monique and Kimberly share some more information on that.
Sure. So we're going to be giving out food here. We have some little pita breads with tofu scramble, as well as chickpea salad. And it's going to be really delicious, but more so than feeding their appetites or their taste buds, we really want to give them the literature as well. So they'll come from our station and hopefully also take a ministry of healing as well.
Awesome. And here's the little display we have over here. We got the ministry cards, we have the flyers, the Ministry of Healing, and also Radiant Living right here. So we got everything ready to share that gospel out here. Amen. Sister Hope, anything?
Nope, just trying to hurry up and get set up so we can serve the people.
All right. All right. Anything, Radisha?
I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time that I've been to one of these and actually have a table, so I'm interested to see how it all plays out.
All right. And we've also been talking to some of the vendors, and they have a lot of cool stuff going on. We met Dr. D. He has a probiotic total egg out here, and we have some different flavors. I actually got to taste the cherry one. It's really good, and the others I've tasted them as well, so they're really yummy. So we're just going to be talking to some people, and we haven't heard from Jerry yet, but you'll hear from him shortly. All right?
Ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, 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 ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, 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 ba-dum-bum, doo-doo, doo-doo.
All right, so I have Royce and Amari with me here today, and you two are the MCs of this event, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so I wanted to ask you two, were you always vegan? And if not, why did you decide to go vegan?
I went vegan about 3 years ago, and I went vegan originally for meditation and manifestation. That's what got me on the path at first, but then I stayed in it for the animals and the environment, and just good for your health too.
Okay, what about you, Amari?
Mine's similar. So I've been vegan for 2 years. I was not vegan when I met Royce. And then I converted after like 2 weeks. But for me, it was for health. I just wanted to be clean eating and spiritual reasons. But as I learned everything, it was like, oh yeah, the animals, the earth, like it's more than just a diet. So now I'm in it. I'm committed. I'm just working to like get other people on the same page.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So both of you, mentioned that you went, or one of the reasons why you went vegan was, for the environment. And I want to ask you, being some advocates for the vegan movement, do you believe that if everyone went vegan, that it would stop climate change? You believe in climate change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really do think it'd help. If you see that most of our water pollution literally comes from animal agriculture, from that factory farming, that's #1 in the U.S. as far as water pollution goes. So already we're knocking out more than all the buses and trains and planes combined. So yeah, everybody needs to jump on that lifestyle, and whether it happens overnight or, in gradual steps, just as long as, you're kind of working towards that goal, that's great.
I mean, I think that it'll definitely help with climate change, and it's going to raise consciousness because there's other things besides just eating animals that contribute to our environment being it's hazardous. But as people can put their mind into the mindset of we're doing this to save Earth and to save ourselves, they'll change their ideas about a lot of things, like recycling even, reusable straws, stuff like that. Like, as long as they have the mindset that we're taking care of something, I think we can resolve issues like climate change for sure.
Interesting. Now, also, you mentioned that you both went vegan partly for spiritual reasons. You know, some people say that the vegan movement, the vegan lifestyle, is actually a religion. It's a form of worship. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I like it whenever they try to make that correlation. It is a deep-rooted, you know, it's your core belief system pretty much, but the thing about being vegan and equating it to religion is that being vegan is seeing what you can't believe. Like whenever you see how much pollution that it's actually putting in our environment and the devastation that you're doing to the animals and even to your own health, you know, those are based off facts. Whether, you know, religion, you know, depending where you grew up and your family and everything, that's going to kind of depend on, you know, what religion you subscribe to. But, you know, whenever you get the facts, that's whenever one becomes vegan. You know, you kind of open your eyes to like, wow, you know, maybe I shouldn't be, you know, killing and raising animals just to kill them, you know, keeping this cycle up.
Yeah, what about you, Mark?
I've seen it used like to our advantage and like as a way to discredit us as well, like religious, spiritually, that way, yes, but I've also seen people say religious like it's a cult. They just believe one thing and they're very extreme. So on that end, I disagree. But I think me personally, I see religion and spirituality as they can coincide, but when I think of them as two different things, where religion is more rigid, strict, you have to believe one thing, your thing, and only that thing. Everything else doesn't make sense. Spirituality is open to understanding and coexisting. So I think vegan is more of a spiritual journey than I would say a religious journey itself. But there are things like Hare Krishna, which they practice veganism, and that's a religion. So I get it. I definitely get it.
Okay, so what are your names?
Taylor.
I'm Bo. How are you doing?
And what's your name?
Bo.
Bo? Okay, what are you looking to try out today?
The mock tuna.
Mock tuna? Okay, so can we catch your reaction? Let's see what you think about it.
Go, girl. Go ahead.
You want to do it together?
You want to do it together?
I'll take one for the team. Come on.
All right, let us know what you think.
You got a spoon? No spoons? Or just
It's just like...
That's really good.
It's really good? You
I like
it?
that one.
I'm not big on it being cold, but it is really good.
Oh, so you like it when it feels hot?
Yeah, warm.
Okay, that's new. And put like a slice of vegan cheese on top.
Yeah, like a tuna
Probably.
Do you mind if I take a picture of that?
Oh, no problem. Go ahead.
It's really good, though.
Thank you, guys.
We're also handing out these literature, and we wanted to.
Man,
We're also
you.
promoting health. We're called 8 Steps to Health, so we just wanted to share good news and also good.
Thank you guys so much.
You're
You're
very
really good.
welcome.
You guys did a good job. Thank you.
All right, I'm down here at the Veggie Fest, and I have with me today Carly.
Yes, hello.
How are you doing today, Carly?
It's great. It's
Great.
in Ocala here, right?
Awesome. The weather's great down here, friends. So I'm going to ask you, have you always been vegan, and how did you transition into being a vegan?
So I've always cared for animals and the planet, and I actually went vegan when I was 15 years old because I started working at a raw and organic juice and smoothie bar. So I was immersed in that culture. I learned a lot when I was working there, and then I got into veganism and more so environmentalism, like zero waste, low impact living, because I think they go hand in hand. So that's what we're doing here today at Ocala. We're zero wasting the event and setting up compost facilities and stations and just trying to be a morally consistent event.
Awesome, awesome. So do you have any regrets of going vegan?
Zero.
Zero?
I know. I can't, I mean, really, there's not a single regret to have. It's the best lifestyle for sure.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Do you think there's a difference between being vegan and being a vegetarian? Because again, I've heard many, different sides of it, and it kind of like a confusion there between both.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously vegetarian is still eating dairy and drinking cow's milk, goat's milk. Being vegan is just not eating any dairy or cheese. So there is a difference, and I think there is a misconception because when you eat vegetarian, you're still having these cows stay alive their entire lives so they can produce the milk and cheese for you to eat. So it's actually not a sustainable lifestyle for your health or the environment. So being vegan is the most sustainable lifestyle to live.
Okay, so
A local vegan, like growing your own food, I want to add too.
Okay, awesome. And you mentioned going for the environment. You became vegan for the environment. Have you heard about the $1 Million Vegan Challenge with Genesis Butler towards Pope Francis?
Yes, I have.
What are your thoughts on that whole thing? What do you know about it?
I know that the last I heard, I think that he turned the challenge down.
Right, he did. She challenged him to go vegan for Lent, and he said, well, maybe not this time.
Yeah.
And her response was, okay, Pope Francis, I'm going to pray for you.
I love it. Brilliant. It's brilliant, really. I mean, you just got to lead by example with this lifestyle. And a lot of people maybe came at the Pope and were mad and upset, which I understand. But really, the best way to get other people to live this lifestyle is just lead by example and be happy and know that they're going to see you live in this way and be like, what are they doing? What's up to that? So maybe the Pope will see for Genesis and be like, hey, what's she doing? Like, she's got a glow about her, and maybe he'll work on it for next Lent, you know?
Okay, interesting. Would you have challenged Pope Francis to go vegan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have thought of it. It's kind of genius that she thought of it. Yeah, I mean, if I had the opportunity and saw him, I mean, it's moral consistency, you know? It makes sense.
All right, let me ask you this, Carla. Do you think there's a connection between being vegan and climate change?
I personally believe so. I studied environmentalism in college, so that's really all I learned about. So the short, yes.
Okay. Let me put this into your mind. Pope Francis also is an advocate for climate change, even though he did not want to go vegan for Lent, which would have been great for a lot of vegans because he's a very public figure. And actually, in his encyclical Laudato Si, I'm not sure if you heard of that, he mentions that in order to combat climate change, we need to as it were, enforce Sunday because the Catholic Church they worship on Sunday. So do you think that going to church on Sunday, enforcing Sunday, people to rest on Sunday will help the climate?
I think, he has an interesting perspective. Maybe, I imagine what if people took that church outside and did gardening and incorporated a nature connect activity into their practice, into any spiritual practice that you do. I mean, you could literally reverse climate change and integrate it into the natural world. So I think that if you are to practice a certain religion, you don't have to necessarily stop, but if you can incorporate it into environmentalism and action, that's where it's going to happen. And I think, he didn't go vegan for Lent. A lot of people are scared to change their taste buds, and you kind of just have to leap over that. That's where festivals like this come into play, so you can learn more about it and realize that it's not that hard. It's really not. It's just knowledge and accepting and challenging yourself to learn more.
So I'm out here at the Veg Fest with
Joe,
and Joe's shirt just cracked me up. What does it say, Joe?
I'm a dirty vegan from my head to my toes, tomatoes, to my toes. Get it? It's funny.
That just cracked me up because I have a thing for puns. So Joe, what made you a vegan? Like, what was your purpose in becoming a vegan?
I run out of meat at the house.
Oh, wow. And do you think that has any benefit for the earth or for your body or for what's your purpose?
It has a benefit for all three things: the earth, body, the spirit. When you eat burnt, seared, dead animal flesh, you're eating part of the spirit of the animal.
And that's the truth right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're called 8 Steps to Health, and we advocate health. Now there's 8 simple steps to total health. Do you know what those 8 steps might be?
I know the 4 undeniable truths and the 8 paths to righteousness.
Okay. So now what we know is called New Start. And it's an acronym. So N is for nutrition, E for exercise, W for water, START goes by S for sunlight, T for temperance, A for air, R for rest, and the last T is trust in God, because we're Christians.
They're all good.
Amen to that,
They're
isn't
all
it?
good,
They're
yes.
all awesome. And the thing is that all of these combined are great, but the foundation is trust in God, because we can do all of these things for our health, but without trusting in God, it's going to avail to nothing. That's exactly what I believe. Do you believe that too?
All parts equal the whole.
Exactly. So there you have it.
Yes.
Everything amounts to trusting in God at the end of the day. So Joe, if I were not a plant-based eater, what would you tell me to convince me?
Well, I would just tell you to try a plant-based food. And unfortunately, not everybody, a lot of people try and make plant-based foods taste like meat. Enjoy plant-based foods for being plant-based foods.
And that's a true statement right there, because my next question was going to be, actually I just thought of it. I just thought of it. So do you believe, if a person says, okay, I'm gonna go plant-based, but everything they eat is processed, what do you think that'll do to them? Do you think that completely defeats the purpose of going plant-based, or they're just like, hey, I'm not killing animals, so it's still good, right?
It's still good. It's still, you have to go in steps sometimes. And unfortunately, people think that if they go plant-based on Monday, they will see the results on Friday. That's not true. you've been contaminating your body with meat-based products for so long, it's going to take a while for it to clean out. Be patient. It will work.
Okay.
It's not an overnight process.
That is true. And Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Just by me laughing at your shirt, that just really struck a great conversation.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Now, before you go, I do want to give you this packet of literature. And it's a lot of information that's just been beneficial to me. And on that blue bookmark right there, it has the New Start information, everything that I just kind of spat out there just now. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I love your shirt, by the way.
All right.
All right, so I'm here with Joseph and
Jackie.
All right, so we are here at the Ocala Veggie Fest. Now, Joseph, I'd like to ask you a question. What have been the benefits? What has been the benefits that you receive from following a plant-based regimen?
Well, I can tell you an unexpected benefit, but one that I'm happy for, is I lost over 20 pounds.
Wow.
Without doing any change in my exercise regimen or anything. It's just eating a whole food plant-based diet.
Right.
So that extra weight just kind of fell off.
Right.
But I also don't have an afternoon slump. You know how after you eat lunch at work and you want to take a nap around 1 or 2 o'clock?
The itis, they call it.
Yes. I don't have that anymore.
Wow.
So no more slump.
That's a blessing. So you lost weight, energy is up.
Yeah.
So that's a blessing. Now let me ask you a thought question. What do you believe is the origin of the plant-based diet? What is the source? When was the plant-based diet first prescribed to man?
Wow. I would guess it's probably the original diet.
Okay.
I mean, that's my guess. I mean, plants are here to eat, and you know, it's probably how we started eating. So I don't know what the origin is.
Okay.
But it's a good one.
I would imagine from the start, from the get-go.
From the beginning?
Yeah.
You think so? Now in the Bible, in the book of Genesis 1 verse 29, it actually shows us God's remedies for man as their manual, as the regimen. Now, I have the Bible here. I would like for you to read this verse for me. All right, so the marker is already on it. Okay, so where you see the black marker, Genesis chapter 1 verse 29. Look, okay, you will see it there. Genesis chapter 1 verse 29. You see it there? Go ahead and read that for us.
All right, it says, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every time in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat."
For meat, yes. So in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 29, after God created the heavens and the earth, God didn't give us flesh food to eat. In the Garden of Eden, you have fresh air, you have water, you have sunlight, but God gave us nutrition, which is a plant-based regimen. Our digestive system, our teeth, we were not prescribed the mechanics to even eat flesh foods. This is why flesh food is so detrimental to our health. So to answer your question, the origin of it comes from the Garden of Eden after creation when God created man.
Interesting.
So,
I could see how that's a little confusing for people with the word meat in there.
Yeah, right. And the thing is this, the meat industry seeks to destroy people's understanding when actually the Bible calls meat flesh. It makes a differentiation. Meat in the Bible means food. So when God says to you shall be for meat, God actually is saying that this is your food.
Right.
But then in other parts of the Bible, when God describing animal, God calls it flesh. So in your grocery store, it should really be the flesh aisle.
This is dead animal flesh.
Yeah, dead animal flesh.
Not meat.
Not meat. So if you follow the original plan in the grocery store, wherever it says meat, there should be fruits, nuts, grains, vegetables, and legumes there.
That's meat.
And then
the meat of the nut, the meat of the grain.
Exactly, which is once again food. So thank you, Joseph, for this interview.
Do you think there's a difference between veganism and vegetarianism?
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, just like health-wise, dairy is so terrible for you. It just leads to so many different health problems. And of course, what happens to the dairy industry to these cows is just atrocious. I mean, some can argue that it's even worse than the meat industry because they're just kept for their entire lives and their children are taken away from them, and it's hell on earth.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. And, even one of the reasons I switched, as you mentioned, the animal cruelty and other things that go into it, was just maintaining a healthy lifestyle. You look pretty physically fit. So what else do you do other than, upholding a healthy lifestyle, eating that which is plant-based to maintain overall health?
Well, every day I work out. I run about 7 miles every day, and I go to the gym as well and stretch. And I started MMA recently, and I'm trying to get involved in all that. And just staying active, I think, is really important for health across all boards, whether you're vegan or not, honestly.
Awesome. And even on that point, I have this book here I want to leave with you. It's called The Ministry of Healing. And in that book, it goes to 8 laws of health, which are like 8 doctors. And you mentioned 2 of those, which is good nutrition, exercise. And even, I actually don't have the bookmark here, but in there, I think page 44, it goes to 8 laws of health, which are nutrition, exercise, water, getting an adequate amount of water each day, sunlight, temperance, rest, proper rest, the importance of that, and also even trusting God. So even here, it links it to just overall maintaining a overall good health as well as a spiritual health. Are you spiritual?
A little bit. I consider myself pantheist.
How did you get into that?
Well, just over the years, I just gotten more involved in spirituality. My father was a physicist, and I used to study the same stuff a few years ago. And really, just it's sort of the idea of just like God being like an energy across all fields, and it just really it applies to science. And I don't personally believe there's a man in the sky or anything, although I was raised Christian. But I think it just applies to the law of conservation of energy and so many different theories and laws of physics that have been proven true. So I would compare it to like the Force in Star Wars.
Because I live by faith. Yeah. So, usually what I don't see, I believe. And in that book there, it goes to some of the principles, even biblical principles of even walking by faith as it relates to health.
Yeah.
So again, I thank you so much for, taking the time out, interview with me.
Of course. Thank you, Richard.
Awesome.
Now, Guna, let me ask you a question. How long have you been on a plant-based diet, and what made you change, and what are the benefits that you have seen?
About 37 years.
Okay.
I practice what's called Bhakti Yoga, given to me by my spiritual teacher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I follow his teachings, which involves no meat eating.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you believe is the origin of the plant-based diet? Where was it first practiced?
Probably 5,000 years ago in India.
Okay.
They were vegetarians back then.
Wow. Now do they believe in the creation
of the world?
Yes.
Yeah, the world was created. Krishna is God, name for God. And Krishna is the source of creation.
Okay.
God is the source of creation.
Okay. Now, did you know also that in the Bible, it talks about how God gave us a plant-based regimen, that it was never a part of our mechanism to actually eat animal flesh?
I believe that.
Have you ever read that?
I've never read that in the Bible, but there is a verse that says that we should protect the animals.
Let me show you here. In the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, it shows us the very first page of the Bible. In Genesis 1:29, it says, do you mind reading that little verse for us there in verse 29?
And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat.
All right, and that word meat there means food. So it was never a part of our regimen to eat flesh foods. Flesh foods were granted to man after the flood. You ever heard of the flood story?
What, Noah's Ark?
Noah's Ark? Yeah, so it was after the flood. Of course, everything was wiped out. There was no vegetation. This is when men began to actually consume flesh, and it was to be temporary. This is why when you follow the biblical story of Egypt, when God was leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, when they got into the wilderness, God fed them manna, which the Bible calls the bread, the corn of heaven. It tastes, like wafers, which is grain and plants. So God was always trying to lead His people back to a plant-based regimen. This is why spirituality is connected to a plant-based diet, because a plant-based diet open up the mind, so that the Spirit of God can enter in. And
Hare Krishna.
You know, and you know, some may believe it to be Krishna, as different teachings circulate throughout the earth. But when you look at the origin of things from a biblical perspective, it says that Jehovah is our maker. He is our husband, and to Him we are to surrender and commit our will to Him. And the Bible talks about the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, goodness, meekness, brotherly kindness. And then it says, against such there is no law. So ultimately, God's purpose is for us to come in harmony with His laws of health as well as His spiritual laws as well.
I agree.
So thank you very much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. Hare
All
Krishna.
Now, I know some of you saw his picture on the website, and you saw this really young guy with all this head
We
full
saw
of hair.
Mike Young on the website.
Mike is not young anymore, but he's still here with us, and he's still almost just as, not as quite, but still somewhat handsome.
He's dashing. He's dashing.
He's dashing, folks. He's good.
All right. Yeah.
Do you guys want to say anything? Any
Well, thank you, Tiffany, for your help. I mean, everybody who came help and showed up today, it exceeded our wildest expectations in terms of vendors showing up, people showing up. You know, the speakers were booked all day. We've got music all day. So it's been just like a great event.
It was amazing.
The weather was amazing.
I know. The weather was amazing.
We couldn't really, I mean, it wasn't perfect. We had a few first year festival things that we were going to learn from. But it was better than we still could have ever imagined.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Next one is March 8th.
Yes. 2020.
March 8th, 2020.
March 8th, 2020.
Second annual.
2020.
Alrighty, bye.
So we're out here today at the Ocala Veg Fest, and we have been conducting interviews, Jenseny, Jerby, Richard, and myself, and it has been wonderful. You know, just to use this opportunity to use food, but also share with them the true heavenly bread, that food that God wants to feed us all with. Anyway, we were doing an interview, and at the end of it, there was a lady who came up to us, and she said, "What religion are you guys?" And I had to answer. I said, "I'm a Seventh-day Adventist." And she said, "I could tell, I knew." She says, "You two look so clean. I just knew there's something different about you. Seventh-day Adventists, they have a look." And I was just praising God, Richard and myself, because we know that we are to be a peculiar people. And this is what we're doing. Even here amidst a lot of darkness and spiritualism, we are trying to be a light, as Jesus says we must be in these last days.